Miyoshi Umeki was the first East Asian-born woman to ever win an Oscar, but she soon learned Hollywood had a dark side. When her son asked her, "Why did you agree to do the Pidgin English?" her response was utterly devastating. Miyoshi Umeki was a Japanese-American actress and singer who smashed Prejudice when she became the first Asian actress to win an Oscar, and she was born an entire ocean away from the Hollywood glitterati she would one day join. She was born on May 8, 1929 in Otaru, a coastal city on the northern Japanese island of Hokkaido. Given that her father owned an iron factory, she likely grew up relatively comfortably, if a little cramped. Umeki was the youngest of her parents' staggering 9 children, but growing up in a household with a ready-made audience might have actually been useful. Even though she would go on to fame in Hollywood, Umeki never forgot her cultural roots. She credited traditional kabuki theater as one of her earliest artistic influences, with its dramatic storytelling, vivid imagery, and rich history. Still, there was something about that far-off place across the sea she couldn't shake. Growing up in Hokkaido, Umeki developed an early fascination with American pop music, which she heard coming over the radio waves. Enchanted by its melodies, a sparkling ambition formed in her head to one day travel to the United States, but first she would have to hone her skills. Umeki's parents didn't exactly share her enthusiasm for American culture. They strongly disapproved of her love for American music and loathed to hear it. Determined to follow her heart, however, she would sing beneath her bedsheets or with a bucket covering her head to muffle the sound. In addition to singing, Umeki learned to play the piano without a piano. She taped a paper keyboard to the dining table and practiced diligently, proving her resourcefulness and unwavering dedication to her craft, and it all paid off. After World War II, a teenage Umeki was free to pursue her dreams. She began performing with American GI bands at service clubs in her hometown of Otaru. These gigs offered her an entry point into the entertainment industry, but not much else. Times were tough in post-World War II Japan. Despite her obvious talents and growing popularity with American GIs, Umeki earned less than $1 a night for her performances. However, instead of getting discouraged, she simply set her sights higher. In her ongoing effort to leap across the sea to Hollywood, Umeki studied the most popular American singers of the time. She absorbed the styles of Doris Day, Dinah Shore, and Peggy Lee by listening to the radio, perfecting her technique, and emulating the charm of the most iconic performers of the time. Clearly, Japan wanted more America, and Umeki was about to give it to them. Long before her eventual rise to fame in Tinseltown, Umeki was already a star. She established herself as a prominent figure on Japanese radio and television, gaining recognition for her American-style singing and magnetic presence. In light of her newfound success and American styling, Umeki adopted a new stage name, Nancy Umeki. She also spent time in the recording studio for RCA Japan, singing popular American standards from 1950 to 1954, and no one blended Japanese and American culture quite like she did. With RCA Japan, Umeki primarily focused on recording American jazz standards, but with a unique twist. She performed these classics in Japanese, English, or incredibly, a mix of both, and her talents brought her to the big screen. With her growing star power in Japan, Umeki broadened her appeal. She showcased her many talents by appearing in the Japanese film Seishun Jazu Musume, further solidifying her presence in Japan's burgeoning entertainment industry. Still, she dreamed of a bigger stage, the biggest stage. Umeki's effortless charm and world-class talent made the transition to the American entertainment industry a seamless one. She quickly gained some national attention through her appearances on Arthur Godfrey Talent Scouts. In fact, audiences loved her appearances so much that she became a regular on the show. Thanks to her success on Arthur Godfrey Talent Scouts, Umeki signed with Mercury Records. She went on to release a number of singles and 2 full-length albums, cementing her successful transition to American entertainment. Even with this success, she could not have anticipated what happened next. Umeki's numerous appearances on Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scouts didn't just captivate audiences, they also caught the attention of famed Hollywood director Joshua Logan. Her talent and poise made her an ideal fit for a groundbreaking project he was casting. Impressed with her talents, Logan cast Umeki in the upcoming film Sayonara alongside one of the most iconic stars of all time, Marlon Brando. The role would mark her Hollywood debut and become one of the most defining moments of her career, and of Hollywood history. Given the subject matter of the film, Umeki's big break was also a big break that could have ended her career before it started. Sayonara follows an American Air Force pilot who falls in love with a Japanese dancer during the conflict in Korea. The film boldly addresses themes of prejudice in the post-World War II era, setting it apart from typical romantic dramas. In an era when Hollywood often sidelined non-white actors, Umeki's role in Sayonara was front and center, defying conventions. Even so, the complex narrative took audiences and Umeki to places they never thought they would go. Umeki's role in Sayonara was as heartbreaking as it was unforgettable. The writers used her character's romance with Sergeant Joe Kelly to show the destructive force of prejudice, culminating in a Romeo and Juliet style ending that left audiences deeply moved. The film's emotional depth and devastating ending, coupled with Umeki's powerful performance, resonated strongly with moviegoers. At every screening, there wasn't a dry eye in the audience during Umeki's poignant exploration of love and societal bias. And while the audience bathed in their own tears, Umeki raked in the money at the box office. Umeki's powerhouse of a performance helped the film climb to the top of the box office in 1958, holding the #1 spot for an impressive 5 consecutive weeks. She even made off with some gold. Umeki's performance impressed her fellow actors just as much as it had impressed audiences as she broke down barriers. For her unparalleled performance, she won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, and she accepted it in style. Even as a fully accepted member of the Hollywood community, Umeki never forgot her roots. When she took the stage to accept her Oscar, she wore a traditional kimono, blending her cultural heritage with her historic achievement. She also had a touching acceptance speech.
For exclusive perks like early access to new videos, priority replies to your comments, and to have your say on future content, consider becoming a Factinate member. On top of that, your support helps keep the channel going. Click the link in the description for more details.
Umeki's speech reflected her humility and authenticity. Even as a bona fide Hollywood star, leaning into the mic, she said, "Thank you. I really don't know what to say. I wish somebody were here to help me right now, cause I didn't expect this, so I had nothing in my mind. But right now, I thank you for everyone who helped me, and you, and all American people. Thank you." With her role in Sayonara, Umeki made history as the first Asian actress to ever win an Academy Award. But she didn't just make history, she also paved the way for greater representation of Asian actors in Hollywood, challenging the industry's long-standing biases. Even some of the most ardent cinephiles make the most common mistake of believing that Sayonara was Umeki's debut film. However, as true cinephiles, and now you know, this isn't exactly the case. Sayonara was only Umeki's Hollywood debut, as she had acted in films in Japan before. Either way, it was the beginning of something beautiful. Capitalizing on her popularity from Sayonara, Umeki made 2 guest appearances on the Giselle McKenzie show. Her rendition of How Deep Is the Ocean captivated audiences again, further proving her range and versatility as an entertainer. Big things were on the horizon. In 1958, Joshua Logan, the same director who had picked Umeki for Sayonara, had another brilliant idea. He recommended her for another one of those once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, but this would take her far from Hollywood. Instead of another Hollywood role, Logan recruited Umeki for the bright lights of Broadway. Based on this recommendation, she landed the role of Mei Lee in Flower Drum Song, a romantic drama from heavyweight writer-composer duo Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein II. Another hit was in her future. Flower Drum Song turned out to be yet another hit, and not just for Rodgers and Hammerstein. Umeki's Broadway debut was just as popular with audiences as her Hollywood debut had been. Directed by Gene Kelly, the show lit up Broadway for 2 years. Even the critics couldn't get enough. Umeki's performance in Flower Drum Song was among audience and critics' favorite things about the musical. In fact, she even earned a cover in the vaunted Time magazine. The reviewer gushed about her talents, writing, "The warmth of her art works a kind of tranquil magic." Given praise like that, it's little wonder what happened next. Unsurprisingly, Umeki's strong performance earned her even more accolades. When she received a nomination for a Tony Award for Best Leading Actress in a Musical, she paved the way for future icons such as Audrey Hepburn and Helen Hayes. However, few people could go back from the screen to the stage and back again quite like Umeki. In 1961, when a major Hollywood studio decided to turn Rodgers and Hammerstein's Broadway hit into a film, they knew exactly who to call. The studio kept Umeki as Mei Lee and retained several other cast members from the original Broadway production, but it wasn't as authentic a film as it seemed. One of the challenges that Umeki faced in adapting to the American entertainment industry had to do with cultural ignorance. Flower Drum Song centers on the stories of Chinese immigrants, but there was just one part Chinese cast member, Nancy Kwan. Like much of the rest of the cast, Umeki was actually Japanese. There was another pretty wild inaccuracy, albeit a flattering one, for Umeki. In Flower Drum Song, Umeki's character, Mei Lee, is supposed to have been born in the year of the rabbit, i.e. 1939 to 1940, and the events of the film take place in 1959, making her character a fresh-faced 19 or 20-year-old. There was just one problem with that. Umeki was born in 1929, a whole decade before her character in Flower Drum Song. However, Umeki had something every actress wishes she had. She had a timeless quality to her look that allowed her to portray a character a whole decade younger. Plus, she was fun. Audiences had come to know her for her poise, grace, and modest character. While working the press to promote Flower Drum Song, Umeki showed off her slightly edgy sense of humor. When someone asked her what the Japanese word for money was, without missing a beat, she coolly replied, "loot." Umeki's performance in Flower Drum Song was another one for the history books. Her powerful pantomimes landed her a nomination for a Golden Globe Award. Together with her recording career, Oscar win, and Tony nomination, Umeki definitely had EGOT potential in her blood, but she never let it go to her head. Umeki always remained loyal to the Asian acting community and to her other castmates and friends. Shortly after starring alongside James Shigeta in Flower Drum Song, she paired up with her Hawaiian-born Japanese co-star again in Cry for Happy. With 2 commercially and critically successful films under her belt, along with the Broadway spotlight and the Oscar Gold to show for it all, Umeki reached new levels of fame. After 1961, she became a regular on television talent and variety shows, entertaining audiences just as she had dreamt of doing as a child. Audiences had grown accustomed to seeing Umeki in dramatic roles and listening to her mellifluous voice. However, she had some other talents that only became apparent during one of her appearances on The Merv Griffin Show. Umeki delighted audiences with an impression of Billy Eckstine, whose tenor and quality she had learned as a child in Japan listening to the radio. The world appeared to be at her feet. Despite her obvious popularity with audiences and proven box office bona fides, Umeki certainly wasn't cranking out the films. Instead, she appeared in just 2 movies in 2 years, The Horizontal Lieutenant in 1962 and A Girl Named Tamiko in 1963. Just as she had conquered film and stage, Umeki was about to conquer television too. Between 1969 and 1972, she took a starring role as Mrs. Livingston in The Courtship of Eddie's Father. Even though she portrayed the housekeeper in the series, it was a supporting role worthy of recognition. The Courtship of Eddie's Father was a light-hearted, family-friendly sitcom that still tackled touchy topics. However, the show's success in balancing these conflicting tones came down to, in no small part, Umeki's deft performance. Not surprisingly, she netted another Golden Globe Award nomination for her efforts. That's not to say, however, that her recognition came easily. As both a woman and a minority, Umeki learned early on to stand up for herself in Hollywood. In one such instance, she noticed that her male co-star in The Courtship of Eddie's Father, Bill Bixby, had relocated his dressing room. Not to be left out, she marched over to the show's producers and declared, "I want a trailer and I want it parked outside." According to another one of Umeki's The Courtship of Eddie's Father co-stars, Brandon Cruz, who portrayed the main child in the series, Umeki got her trailer, and then she negotiated the same accommodations for the rest of the cast. Miyoshi got what she wanted by just being smart and quiet, Cruz recalled. When The Courtship of Eddie's Father ended in 1972, Umeki made a shocking announcement. After working hard her whole life to break through prejudice and forge a career in entertainment, Umeki retired from acting. She had a different kind of life in mind. Back in 1958, while her career in American entertainment was beginning to really take off, Umeki had done something else that surprised many. She married the TV director Frederick Winfield Win Opie. Always crafty, she managed to keep the details of the marriage out of the tabloids, except for one detail. Even as she was building her career on screen and on stage, Umeki had been focused on another aspect of her life, starting a family. In 1964, she and her husband welcomed a son, Michael H. Opie, into the world, but it hadn't all been sunshine and rainbows. Because of her ability to keep her private life, well, private, we'll never know much about Umeki's first marriage, except that it clearly wasn't the happiest one. By 1967, Umeki and Opie were ready to call it quits and filed for divorce, but Umeki was at the height of her popularity. She wouldn't be single for long. Once again, Umeki's intense preference for privacy proved impenetrable. It's not clear what exactly happened next or how, but by 1968, she had already managed to find herself a new husband. This time she married another director, Randall Firevod Hood. It seemed like the perfect fit. Turns out that Hood wasn't just good for Umeki, he was good for her son as well. After their marriage, Hood adopted her son from her first marriage. The new couple agreed that a fresh start would be best for the boy and went ahead with the name change to Michael Randall Hood. Despite her retirement, Umeki didn't stray too far from the entertainment business. Along with her husband, she operated a business out of Los Angeles, renting editing equipment to film studios and university film programs. Unfortunately, happily ever after was only true in the movies. In 1976, Umeki's suburban post-fame life was shifted. Her husband Randall Hood passed, leaving her with fond memories and a broken heart. In a shocking move following her husband's demise, Umeki lashed out at her Oscar statuette. The crestfallen former actress removed her name from the Golden Trophy and then promptly proceeded to chuck the thing in the garbage. The seemingly inexplicable act only became even more inexplicable after that. Umeki's son Michael later confessed that he didn't know for sure what prompted his mother's extreme act against her own Oscar statuette. All he could say was that she took her husband's passing hard and was likely under a lot of stress. After all, she now had a teen to raise all on her own. Umeki's apparent act of rage and dismay wasn't what it seemed. In fact, as Umeki's son probed his grieving mother, it became increasingly clear that the act wasn't emotional at all. When Umeki's son questioned her about the act of vandalism against her own Oscar statuette, her response was chillingly and somehow reassuringly unemotional. She told me, "I know who I am and I know what I did," Hood recalled, but at its core, this incident taught her son an important lesson. Speaking about her wrecked trophy, her son also said, "It was a point of hers to teach me a lesson that the material things are not who she was." Given how her life proceeded from there, no one could have guessed that she was a Hollywood legend. Umeki's son revealed some of the details of her quiet life after walking away from the heights of her fame. He claimed that she settled in Sherman Oaks, California for a number of years, still around Hollywood though no longer a part of it. Then she gave up that too. After years of living around Tinseltown, she picked everything up and moved to Licking, Missouri so that she could be nearer to her son and grandchildren. With a full heart, she couldn't ask for much more. Umeki never changed her surname after her second husband's passing, maintaining the double-barreled Miyoshi Hood. It was as clear a sign as any that what she prioritized most was family. And so, in the city she shared with her family, Licking, Missouri, she passed in August 2007 at the ripe age of 78 from cancer. Her legacy, however, lived on. In a time when minority actors struggled to find work and faced terrible prejudice, Umeki thrived and punched her way through ceilings as if they didn't exist. Even so, she had, at times, leaned into the prejudice that stymied so many others. "Why did you agree to do the pidgin English?" her son once asked her. Her answer encapsulated the philosophy that saw her break barriers. When her son asked her why she played into prejudice at times, Umeki gave an honest answer. "I didn't like doing it," she confessed. "But when someone pays you to do a job, you do the job and you do your best." Her best was Oscar-worthy and then some. If you enjoyed this Fact in a video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more incredible stories. Want to say and who we cover next? Join our membership program through the link in the description for exclusive perks. Your support means everything to us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.